We'd like to call this meeting to order of the Board of Education of Princeton Public Schools. Welcome to this public meeting of the Princeton Board of Education. The board is an elected, unpaid group of 10 citizens who set policy and make decisions on educational, financial, and personnel matters for the Princeton Public Schools on behalf of all residents. We're always pleased when members of the community attend our meetings. The board and the school operate under applicable New Jersey laws and under regulations of the New Jersey Board of Education. Each meeting includes 3 opportunities for those attending to comment on items of the published agenda or on other matters of interest to them. The first one is right after these remarks. There's an open comment session for anyone who would like to bring anything to our attention. And then a second one in about the middle of the meeting where we talk about agenda items only, and then finally one at the end of the meeting for people who maybe, based on what was said tonight, would like to make other comments. We desire that our meetings provide useful opportunities for communication between the board and the community. Thank you for attending. And with that, we'd like to, if Ms. Kennedy, if you could call the roll.
Patrick Sullivan.
Here.
Daphne Kendall. Here. Betsy Calber-Baglio.
Here.
Debbie Braunfeld.
Here.
Justin Doran.
Here.
Bill Hare.
Here.
Fern Sproul.
Here.
Greg Stinkowitz.
Here.
Connie Witter.
Here.
Evelyn Spahn.
Here.
Brian Liu.
Here.
Amy Wang.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. May we have a motion for the adoption of the minutes for August 29th? Justin, and a second. Debbie? And are there any questions? Tell me when you're ready, Stephanie.
There are folks that have been abstaining.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions or comments on the minutes of August 29th? If no questions or comments, we just need a vote then. And I think that will come up on our screen, correct?
Oh, we're gonna vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's technology.
It's gonna come up. Right.
Can you see it?
No.
Nope.
Let me refresh. I'm sorry, who, Justin?
It was Justin and Debbie.
Okay, you should see it now.
No.
I do not.
There it is.
Where? Oh, there it is.
I don't.
Okay.
You just came up? Not seeing it. Waiting.
We good or almost good, Stephanie?
Almost through.
All right.
I think I got somebody else that's gonna be,
I need to abstain, but mine's not coming up.
I can mark you like I have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now, again, for people who maybe haven't been to a public meeting recently, or we run the meetings now not quite in alphabetical order, in that if we don't need to take a roll call vote on an item, we'll bring it up for discussion and then only take a vote on all things that don't require a roll call at the end. So it's sort of a consent agenda. It helps move things along a little bit. So just as you follow along on the agenda, you'll see that we don't jump around, but we move somewhat quickly through things. But now we are on public forum, which is agenda item E. This is a 15-minute period for people who would like to address any topic. I just want two things. If you come to the microphone, if you can just identify yourself and where you live, number one. And number two, if you can just be mindful, it's hard to tell how many people are going to be talking in this forum, but just be mindful of other people's time. If you can limit your comments to a few minutes, if that's possible. So with that, open the floor.
Good evening. I'm Linda Oppenheim, a Princeton resident, and I'm a member of Not in Our Town, a local racial justice organization. And I want to bring 2 events to the public's attention. Next Monday, on October 2nd at 6:45, in our effort to continue to bring racial literacy to the Princeton community, we are going to have a program called Building Greater Understanding about Native American History. The presenter, who's returned to this area after several years in Maine, where she worked with the Maine Truth and Reconciliation Commission, has added to her presentation recording of a leader of the Nanticoke, Lenni Lenape, and other Delaware Valley Native Americans. That will take place next Monday at 6:45 at the Princeton Public Library. We're sponsoring it along with the New Jersey Council for the Humanities, the Historical Society of Princeton, and Kidsbridge. And then the following Sunday, October 8th at 7 p.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Princeton, 50 Cherry Hill Road, Not in Our Town is sponsoring a forum for the candidates for the Board of Election. And that forum is being organized and will be moderated by Princeton High School students. So we very much encourage and hope that as many Princeton voters as possible will attend. Thank you.
Could you repeat that date again for the forum?
It's Sunday, October 8th at 7 p.m.
At the Unitarian Church.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public at this time? Dr. Correll.
Hi, Bob Correll. I teach science at the high school. I feel like such a millennial using my phone for notes. First, at the last board meeting, Board Member Hare said some very nice things about me, and I actually wasn't prepared to respond at the time because, A, I just thought I didn't know what to say at the time, but also, B, I thought it might be nice to get home before midnight after a board meeting. But as I thought about what he said, I have to really deflect some of the compliment to other people. First of all, most of the credit for the scores goes to my students. They're the ones who do the work. And I feel like I'm a coach. I don't compare myself to Bill Belichick, but I put myself in my results in that range. And I have a lot of assistant coaches who do a lot of work for me, and that's all the other science teachers, especially the first-year chemistry teachers do an excellent job. Not a single student who's ever come to me from our Excel Chem course has ever gotten anything less than a 3. So they come very well prepared to me. But also all the math teachers and science teachers and even the English teachers they've had along the way. I was very surprised a few years ago when we looked at PSAT data, and I fully expected, I went in with the assumption that all of my top scoring students would be, near 800 in the math, and they wouldn't be, slow or low in the English, but they didn't necessarily have to be 800. What surprised me was there was as many kids who were the other way around. They were like 800 in English and 600 in math, showing that it's as much a reading test as it is a science test. So that was the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing, I'm sure the student board members are going to talk about homework because they talk about it at every meeting. And we've talked about measuring it, but what are we measuring? I don't think we've actually defined homework. I gave a test in my class today. Did I give homework last night? I didn't collect anything, okay? If these two were in my class and one of them went home and studied for 30 minutes and the other one is a perfectionist and decided to study for 7 hours, how much homework did I give and how do we measure that? So I think before we go about measuring homework, I think we have to define what homework is, because I'm sure even with these two, we'll have 2 different definitions, and with 1,700 students, we'll probably have 1,000 different definitions. So I think it might help to define it before we ask the students to report what they think they have. The third thing is I'm going to renew my call that every certificated administrator should have to teach in some capacity in this district. And the reason for this is 2 things that have happened in the last month. First of all, I was asked to give a presentation on the APP tonight, the night before I have to give a presentation on back to school night. I'm like, who decided to schedule back to school night the day after the board meeting? That just seems crazy to me. But the other thing is all of the electronic demands that have been put on us this year. And I'm not saying any one of these is bad. A new absence management system. I've heard great things from people who have worked in other districts about it, but that's something new to learn. A new observation management system. I was part of the DAC that wanted this to happen, but again, at the same time, it's something new to learn. On top of this, The LMS demands on us were greatly increased this year. And I tell you from personal experience, the LMS has not replaced a website. In fact, it has increased my work. When I put an assignment in the LMS and I go into the gradebook, I can't change it. So if I decide, oh, this test was a little too hard and I want to curve it, sorry, I have to delete the assignment from the LMS, then re-enter it into the gradebook with the new parameters. Or say I want to add an extra credit point to the assignment, sorry, you have to delete it from the LMS and go back into the gradebook. So I really think the people who make the decisions on things that affect us should also be affected by those decisions. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Just a comment, Dr. Kraus. Two things. Thank you for all your work. You know, Bill said it last time, so I don't want to repeat it. But obviously, your passion for kids is amazing, and what you do for them is incredible. So we want to recognize that. On your point on the technology, I think it's something that you got to be mindful of. I'm just a board member, so I don't know how to fix it. But even, I've gotten a lot of parent complaints about the fact that we text kids the second their grade changes. And what message does that send? And the answer I've always gotten is, well, that's the way Power School works. We can't do anything. Now, there's other times where I've spoken to teachers about modifying assignments, modifying grades, and the teachers will say, well, how am I going to put that in Power School? The technology becomes the water we're all swimming in, and it's very hard to change. But technology was supposed to empower us and help us and make things easier, not to define the boundaries of what we're doing. So it's frustrating to hear you saying that. I don't know what the answer to how to fix it, but it's good that you're at least raising the issue.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Molly Jones. I'm a Princeton resident. I'm a mother of 2 children in the Littlebrook School. I'm a member of the Littlebrook PTO, and I'm here tonight in my professional capacity as Executive Director of Sustainable Princeton. I wanted to make you all aware that Princeton is at the very beginning stages of what's called a climate action plan. A climate action plan is essentially a strategic plan that develops mitigation and resilience strategies to help the town and all the bodies within the town to deal with climate change and the effects of climate change. This is not just about the natural environment, it's really about human health. If we want all of our children to thrive, a healthy environment is really critical to their well-being and that of future generations. These are serious concerns that require long-term thinking. And so, as we're just at the beginning of this, we're coming to you to invite you, in a way, to participate in this and know that it's really a collaborative effort that we want you all involved. The schools really have a huge footprint, and many of our area residents spend a lot of time of their day in these buildings that you all support. So you have a great chance to make a very positive change. I applaud Littlebrook and Johnson Park and John Witherspoon, for achieving the bronze certification with Sustainable Jersey. That is such a stunning, wonderful first step. I strongly encourage everyone, the board, staff members, teachers, to take advantage of all of the Sustainable Jersey trainings to really help bring everybody up to speed. And then I just wanted to extend that Sustainable Princeton, we are here to support you. We are here to bring resources to this discussion and help enable our success together. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Molly, if I can just build on what you were saying. I know that the Green Team, when we met last week, talked about the plan, the climate change plan that that Sustainable Princeton is developing, and as a district, we're committed to reducing that large footprint that you described, and our focus this year is really on energy and energy consumption and doing an audit of that. And so we look forward to aligning our work with the work of the town.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate that attitude and look forward to doing great things together.
Terrific. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments from members of the public?
Is this for non-agenda items?
Non-agenda items, Stephanie. So, anyone else? So there'll be a chance for agenda items not coming up not too long. Okay, so with that, we're turning to agenda item F, Board's President's Report. Usually this is just a time for me to say a few words about what's happening. I can always happy to do that. One is that we started a new school year. It's an exciting time for us. I think, well, I was talking with some board members today and yesterday, and we felt that this is kind of probably the most exciting start of the year that we've ever seen, just because changes we've been talking about for a long time have started to happen. And I tell you, the first time that I heard some of these changes, like with respect to homework becoming optional in many cases, and just things that we've been talking about for a long, long time suddenly happening, I thought for a minute, I hope we're doing the right thing, because it's actually happening now. It's not just talk anymore. But that's an exciting feeling to have. And so, we look forward to this year. We think of the year ahead. We all, the board and working with the administration and the teachers, have so many exciting things that we'd like to try and that we'd like to see happen, and we're really looking forward to doing all that. I think that sort of moves me to the next item on the agenda, which is F2. And just to say a few words, I guess, do I need a motion to do F2, Stephanie? So before maybe I'll stop for just a moment and ask for a motion for item F2, which is to, with respect to Superintendent Cochran's contract. Motion, Daphne, and a second, Betsy. All in favor? Oh, it's not a roll call. Oh, yeah, sorry, that was just a motion. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But as I just said, it's an exciting time for a lot of reasons, and part of that excitement, part of the catalyst for all that excitement is the man sitting to my right, who's been working in the district since 2014. Steve Cochran has showed himself to be a real leader in education. He has obviously an intelligence that shines through every day. He has a passion for learning and a passion for children, which again shows through in almost every interaction that he has with anyone that I've seen. When we did a search, we were talking about the search back in 2013-14 we did for a new superintendent when Judy Wilson retired. We were really impressed by Steve's articulateness about education, about his vision for what he thought a public school could be. We saw in him a great leader, and we had high hopes for taking a district that had done very well and that was really at the top ranks in any sort of statistical ranking that you care to look at, but taking it to the next level and doing it in a way that's not a judgment on what people were doing before, but an affirmation and moving things to a level where people do try new things and experiment and make it even better than it was. And Steve turned out to be the perfect leader for that, and it's taken a little bit of time. I think, people who on this board who are in the business world sometimes express frustration that things don't happen faster, but in order to have a superintendent to get results, you need to have a superintendent who understands the way that a school works, and Steve does. So in terms of everything that Steve's brought to the table, we've been very excited to work with him. I think there's a lot of support for the strategic plan that Steve developed, and it's been kind of the catalyst and leader behind. And his ability to focus all the great energies in all of our buildings towards a really positive future. And so what we're doing tonight is we are rescinding his contract, but only so that, in a good way, only so that we can rewrite the contract for a new 5-year term. In effect, it's 4 new years because his old contract would have expired a year from now. So we're sort of rolling back and going ahead. So it's 5 years, 4 new years from the time that his old contract would expire. The terms are a bit more generous than his old contract. If some of you may remember that in 2014, when Steve started, there was a pretty draconian cap on superintendent salaries. It caused a mass exodus of good superintendents from the state of New Jersey. Steve came to work anyway at a level that was below the pay of many other administrators in the building. And so this was a chance to affirm not only our commitment to Steve over a longer period of time, but also to affirm the fact that he's valuable to this district, he's valuable to our children, he's doing a great job, and he's been a great investment, and we want that to continue. Before I stop talking, and now that I will stop talking, before we go to a vote, if anyone else would like to say anything, welcome to.
Yeah, I just want to say, Steve, that we've worked together for not quite 3 years, but it's been fantastic to really see you as a leader, a unifier, someone who has brought collaborative efforts to the board, to the district, to teachers, and there's been a lot that we've been through. And in today's day and age where we're really missing that on a much larger picture, you've really provided that here in Princeton, and you've gotten people to buy into your vision and to your strategic plan. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Justin.
Any other comments from the board or?
Yeah, I also want to just echo that. And President Sullivan, I think when you say excitement, I think that's something that so many of us feel under your leadership, and looking forward to all the great things that's still to come for this district. So thanks.
I'll just add, we appreciate your optimism. You're open to new ideas and you're optimistic about the results. So we appreciate that.
And to just say, again, I appreciate everything. And when I say I mean we appreciate everything. And I'm talking about our community, everybody that you have impacted, which you have impacted in a positive way.
Thank you, Fern.
Tonight I get to speak for the Cranberry Board. We appreciate when you come over. I know that Dr. Jinko really appreciates the collaborative effort on behalf of the Cranberry School, and on behalf of the Cranberry Board, we do appreciate what you do. And in helping our students transition over, you're a very big part of that. And Susan does really value the relationship that you have. So thank you very much.
That's mutual. Thanks, Evelyn.
Okay, any other comments before we vote? Okay, so, Ms. Kennedy, we call the roll.
Patrick Sullivan,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Debbie Braunfeld,
No.
Justin Doran,
Yes.
Bill Hare,
Yes.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Fern Sproul,
Yes.
Greg Stankiewicz.
Yes.
Sorry, my cursor's not moving. Connie Witter
Yes.
and Evelyn Spahn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes.
Great,
Congratulations. Steve.
thank you.
The next item, again, we need an F3. We need
Yes, sir. Motion.
a motion. Justin, a second. Fern? Okay. In connection with Mr. Cochran's contract, there are two parts to it in his existing contract, also his new contract. There's a base salary, and then there are what we call merit goals or performance goals that amount to total of another 14.99% of his base salary. Every year, we come together to discuss what those merit goals should be. In the past, they've had some that are qualitative, some that are quantitative, so it's a very formulaic approach, but it's a way for the board and the superintendent to sit down and come up with some things that we think are important, and agree on sort of just items that are important. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I remember one year we had with Steve, we had one that was children should feel safer in the building. We had a way of measuring that, and it turned out it was the year where we had lots of swatting incidents. And so guess what? Children didn't feel safe in the buildings for no fault of Steve's, but he didn't hit that one. So sometimes that happens, but it's always a good way just to sit down and talk about what our hopes and goals are for the year ahead. In this year, there were numerous goals, some which got deferred to next year, having to do with evaluating administrators. Other goals had to do with the building, putting together the beginning stages of a referendum for new buildings and facilities. Some had to do with racial awareness and literacy, which we've been working on over the past year. We'll be continuing to working on over the next year. So they had a range of items from very pragmatic to aspirational. And so today we are just here to ratify the fact that he's achieved some goals in part, some goals in total, some goals were deferred to next year, but this is just a vote for the board to ratify those achievements.
Correct. Okay.
Any questions or?
So I had one question, and I'm not real sure how they interpret quantitative, but just with regard to the referendum proposal, I just want to make sure that, through no fault of his own, we don't have a referendum proposal. So I just want to make sure that, do we believe that goal was met?
So, shall I speak to that, Steve, or would
Well,
you?
I think there were five, I don't have it in front of me, there were
Yeah.
5 components to that in terms of doing a capacity study, which was done, a demographic analysis, which was done, a needs analysis, which was done, and then.
An architectural.
And then, yes, architectural analysis, and then prioritizing those and developing a budget. So all of that was completed as sort of the preparation, but, the referendum planning still evolves as we
Right.
have to now find a different site from what we had originally thought we were going to need. So I understand the question because we don't have like a package all tied up neatly with a bow, but in terms of the elements of the goal, those were met. So it's up to the board in terms of how they see this.
Well, I just want to make sure that, we're transparent about this, because I do think that you did work on it, but we don't have a referendum proposal. I think when we do meet to go over your 17-18 goals, we have to be more mindful, the board has to be more mindful of how we word things, right? Because we
Yeah.
didn't say,
And I would
Yeah.
think that it would make sense for a goal moving forward to actually focus on the next phase, which would be the design phase and the collaboration that we need with the community and with the staff to be able to develop a great design for the buildings moving forward.
okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so this again is a roll call vote, Ms. Kennedy?
Patrick Sullivan,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Justin Doran,
Yes.
Bill Hare,
Yes.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Fern Sproul,
Yes.
Greg Stankiewicz.
Yes.
Connie Witter,
Yes.
and Evelyn Spahn.
Yes.
Passes, thank you.
Okay, and just on F4, just to clarify, if you have the short form agenda in front of you, Justin Duran has offered to give up his position, and with Chairman Kendall's approval, Bill Hare will be serving on facilities going forward.
Right, and that's only because the timing didn't work for him.
Of meetings.
Of the timing of the meetings,
Yeah.
right. He's
But there's no
working.
action required there. Okay, so now we're on to the superintendent's report, which is item G. So
Very good.
it's not for you, Steve.
Thank you, Pat. I really want to begin by, of course, thanking the board for renewing the contract and for all the nice things that you said. But more importantly, I want to thank the board for what I think that contract represents, which is an affirmation of the continued direction for our school district. As a community of learners, the Princeton Public Schools are engaged in really transformative work. We're committed to enhancing wellness, engagement, innovation, equity, and we're committed to a redefinition of success, one that incorporates high levels of achievement for all of our kids, but also one that incorporates high levels of joy and purpose. And I think one thing that I want to say is that as a superintendent, one of the things that gives my greatest sense of joy and purpose is the collaborative nature of the work that I do. I don't do any of this on my own. I get to spend every day laughing with Stephanie and Lou and Annie. And I'm grateful to have spent the last 3+ years joining with teachers, parents, administrators, community members, and with students to create that new vision of learning that you were talking about. And I'm truly looking forward to the next 5 years to see what we can accomplish together. That strategic plan was the work of a lot of people and represents the vision of the full community. And I'm grateful and humbled to be able to serve in this capacity. We have 2 presentations tonight that are part of my superintendent's report, and I think those presentations speak to some of what we have accomplished already as a district, and specifically to those goals within the strategic plan that relate to innovation, engagement, and equity. The first presentation highlights our new summer science enrichment camp, which we started this past year, and the goal of that camp was to identify and inspire budding middle school scientists from groups of students who have traditionally been underrepresented in higher level courses, science courses at the high school. Students had to apply to participate in this camp. We had 18 students who were accepted, and I will let Dr. Eddie Cohen, who I see in the back, our science supervisor, give you a brief window into what these scientists from our middle school experienced this summer. And Ms. Katz is with him as well, I see. Thank you for being here on the night before back to school night.
So Jackie's going to give a little bit of the day-to-day. I'm going to talk about the kind of big picture. So right in front of us on the screen, we have a glider. So that's a glider that Rutgers owns. Rutgers had 56. There's 256 of those that the U.S. military owns right now, and the Navy sends around the world. So this is kind of the basis of our class that we did for 2 weeks. So I just want you to keep that glider in mind as we switch. So we want to create excitement for science, inspire students of underrepresented demographics, as Steve mentioned, so they recognize themselves as scientists, and present the many aspects of scientific research to middle school age students. So those were our big 3 goals as we started planning for this program in the summer.
So basically, as we went to plan this summer, we were lucky enough to have Rutgers kind of as our go-to basis, and it helped me kind of design the curriculum we use. So we started by designing our own gliders. So those are the students working on building helium balloon gliders with styrofoam wings that we sent racing down the high school hallways when no one else was around. And then we went to Rutgers and we got to get our hands on a real glider, and they helped ballast the glider, which is basically prepare it for deployment, so that when it goes out into the water, it's able to actually swim rather than just sink to the bottom of the Raritan Bay. So this is how we started. And then during week 2, we started to think more about what the gliders are doing once they've been deployed. And basically what they're doing is they're testing water quality. So the students were collecting water samples and testing it with sensors, pH sensors, temperature sensors, and then we built our own temperature sensor using a simple circuit so that they could test the different waters around the school. We collected it from different water fountains and things so they could test temperatures. And then we went out on this pretty awesome boat out of Sayreville in the Raritan Bay, and they got to deploy the glider that they had ballasted the week prior. So that's them in the back of the boat getting ready to kind of drop the back gate, and they helped physically lift the glider into the water and watch it dive and swim, and then they helped get it back into the boat, which was pretty cool, and the boat was quite a ride.
So here's all of us on the boat. We have a captain, we have 2 scientists from Rutgers. I should mention marine science at Rutgers is top 5 in the nation every year. Most people don't know that because we're not on the ocean at Rutgers. So it's really high quality scientists they're working with. And they did a lot of the work for us without a charge. The only thing we got charged for was the hourly wage on the boat. So it's very nice of Rutgers to donate some of their time, energy, and efforts. And this is a video. I'm going to play the video. So there's actually a student coding the glider. A glider costs $100,000, so letting the students code it is pretty impressive. So the scientist on the right is telling the student what to actually type in. And then when we scan over to the glider that's in the tank, those are all the kids working with it. So the fact that the kids got to touch, hold, manipulate, move a $100,000 object, which is really a robot under the water. And if you don't know how a glider works, which you probably don't, it takes a cup of water in its nose, and then the weight it gets more dense, then it will drop down, and it does parabolas through the whole ocean. So that's how it travels around the world. So one of these gliders is hanging in the Smithsonian, the first robot to go across the ocean from New Jersey to Spain.
Wow.
So the high quality science the kids are doing is really cutting edge. It's the first time the boat's been out with middle school kids ever. The Rutgers research vessel holds 20 people. It's Coast Guard certified. It's only been out a couple months. So some of the things the kids are doing are really the first time it's happening around the world, really. And then I think we have one more slide. And then here's the plans for next year. You want to talk about plans for next year?
Sure, yeah. So after the first 2-week program, we kind of had a chance to sit back and think about how we can make this program continue to grow and continue to be beneficial for our students. So we're definitely hoping to start recruiting earlier, get out to a lot of different venues and talk to the middle schoolers to get them excited about the program. And we were thinking just for the scheduling of the program, rather than do a 2-week kind of like bolus chunk of science, perhaps extend it a little bit and do a few days each week to keep it fresh in their minds and really kind of give them time to take in the information. Also, incorporate our lovely high school students to serve as mentors, since they're a great resource and they're kind of examples for these middle school kids to see still kids doing science, because it's definitely possible. And then we also want to try to maintain contact with the students throughout the year to keep the excitement going. So it's not just like, hey, this was fun in the summer and now it's school again, but it's like a continuous process. And then, of course, that would help to continue to build the program so that we could see them throughout their middle school and high school journeys and kind of keep tabs on them and try to continue the inspiration and just show them a lot of different options. Rather than 2 weeks of ocean science, maybe we could show them lots of different scientific venues.
And we talk about plans for summer. This school year, we actually do have an oceanography class at the high school. So using some of the innovation we learned this summer and using some of the techniques and people we met over the summer, we're going to include that in our current course this year too. So any questions?
How many kids did you have this summer, and then how many are you prepared to, after this success, handle next summer? And how do you determine who gets selected?
So those are great questions. We had 18 kids who signed up. It was 2 weeks from 8 to 12 each day. Over the 2 weeks, we had an average of 15 kids. So a kid might miss a class, someone had a birthday, didn't come to class, someone else did a great adventure. So the kids, overall we had 15 kids consistently across the time. Recruiting for next year depends on all of you and how much support and how much energy we want to put towards it. But we have this amazing staff members who want to do this. 2 of our 6th grade teachers help recruit and they wanted to teach. I have another high school staff member who wants to teach. So we have enough caring, compassionate educators who want to do the work with the kids. So it really depends on funding and time and energy to make a more robust program. I personally love oceanography. My background's oceanography, but we also want to look at some other disciplines. The thought of like which topic we're teaching was kind of what we don't see in the current science standards. And oceanography is an elective class at the high school, but middle school we don't teach much oceanography. So looking at some other areas like soil science, for example, isn't in the current standards. That'd be a pretty exciting 2-week program. I know some of you might, soil science isn't that exciting, but we can make it really exciting for kids.
So, Dr. Cohen, I'd like to say something, and I'd like everyone to take a step back and realize the framework where this was done. So, basically, studies show that we've been talking about this achievement gap for 30, 40 years, right? And so, studies show that summer is a great time to close that gap. And so, Eddie pursued, this was your idea, is that right? Or Dr. Carell, you and Dr. Carell's?
We all worked together.
They worked together, but we were in between superintendents. So you can imagine the bureaucratic red tape as it is, but then when we don't have administrators and we're assistant apologies, assistant superintendent. And so they persisted, and so 2 things. So I would like to, first, on the boat, I went on, Dr. Cohen invited Betsy and I on the boat. Betsy was away, but I attended. I was so impressed with the entire day, and Jackie was there too. I was impressed from when I got on the bus and the bus driver said, hola to the children. She knew that I was so impressed by that because she really, going back to every child known, she clearly knew those children. And then we went, there were some kids on the boat who were seasick. They took care of those children. Eddie had snacks for everyone after and really took care of the kids. Some of those kids had never been on a boat before, and they saw true joy. I saw true joy, and it was a fast ride. So
They also got wet. We didn't mention that.
yes, some of the kids I did not get wet. But there's a lot of talk in our community, and the science department really is the first I've seen that followed through, and I would urge our new assistant superintendent of curriculum to work with the other departments to replicate what the science department did, because I really think that is the way forward. The second thing I would like to say, and we don't talk about it a lot because APs, but another thing that Dr. Cohen and Dr. Corral did was they had a summer AP class. And in that class, they identified students that are underrepresented. So minorities, was it accelerated? So my apologies. So accelerated. So children that aren't usually taking these classes were identified, and there was some success, and we learned some things to do for next year. So absolutely, we want to do this next year. And you really made a difference. Like someone said to me, one of the girls who's Latino, that getting into that course was like winning the lottery. And for me, sometimes we forget why we, sometimes we're in the red tape and we forget it's about the kids, and you reminded us of that. And so I would encourage all the administration to include board members when you can, because it's very meaningful, and I think it's great. So thank you, Eddie.
Well, thank you so much.
And if I could just add one thing, I'm going to say all the thanks again, because we all really do appreciate all the efforts. I was able to see a classroom day. I missed the boat, but there was great excitement even in the classroom. I think it may have been the last day of the course. And so after 2 weeks in the classroom, they all obviously were having fun and knew each other well, but they were still very excited to be there. I had a question. If students took part this year but want to take part next year, and if it's a different branch of science, a different topic, is that possible?
So that's what we're thinking, depending on how many students sign up, depends on what we offer, who teaches it. So yes is the short answer. I would love to have enough students signed up where we have multiple different courses based on grade level and age. So right now it's multi-grade. It was 6th grade, incoming 7th graders, incoming 8th graders, incoming 9th graders. More kids we could do, maybe 7, 8, 9, so we can always switch it up. But yes. Thank you all.
Thanks. I guess you answered this question, but so with respect to those about 18 kids you had, so are they in sort of class like next year? Do you follow up with those same kids and sort of bring them through to high school, or is it kind of next year they sign up or not sign up? I know you had this thing about maintain and stay connected to the kids, but how does that work in practice?
So 2 of the kids are freshmen right now at the high school, so we actually visited them and chatted with them already because we invited them tonight. So 2 of the kids are 8th graders and the rest are 7th graders. So we have a big cadre of 7th graders. So looking at that group, working with the science teachers, luckily I can work with all the science teachers. I meet with them regularly to kind of track and see where those kids are and keep them motivated and engaged, but then offer them sooner to see if they want to do it again. So we are tracking them through their science teachers and their classes to see how they're doing.
Well, that's great. It's sort of measuring, right? I mean, in a way, you're not measuring, but you're seeing what happens to these kids over time, which would be really interesting just to see.
And one of the freshmen, because Jackie teaches accelerated biology, she didn't really know much about accelerated biology. So having that conversation about what it looks like and having the teacher who teaches that in the summer is also another thing, building rapport. Yep. Be like, oh, I can work with her all year long. That sounds awesome. So it's another big thing we learned from the program.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for, just reiterate that you guys have really done, trying something new, seeing how it works, doing something different is like so exciting to hear about, and so we just appreciate all your efforts.
You can just make it up as you go along.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Start creating.
It's a lot of fun, yes.
They have the rapport and the relationship with you, and then they have faces that they know, which is great, and be careful what you start.
Thank you.
I'm really glad the board was able to see this, and those watching at home and the public here tonight. When we talk about joy in school and joy of learning. This is an example of it. It begins with, and you could tell, the care and the enthusiasm and the expertise of the teacher. So thank you, Jackie, for your efforts, and Eddie for yours. And when we talk about problem-based learning and authentic learning, interdisciplinary, this was another example of that. And that's part of the initiatives for the entire high school as we move forward. So this was a wonderful example of innovation and engagement and equity. And we have another. We have a second presentation tonight, and this one highlights a novel approach with teacher evaluation. The goal here was to give some of our tenured, highly competent teachers an opportunity to try new things, to take some risks, to explore innovative ways of teaching and learning. So the Alternative Professional Project, or APP, was the brainchild of our own Lou Goldstein, Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources. So I'm just going to turn things over to Lou, and if you'd like to introduce the teachers who are here tonight to talk about their projects, Lou, that would be great.
Thank you, Steve. I really think when you chair a committee, you have to be smart enough to sit back and let everybody else, do the work. So I think the hard work was done by everybody else. I just happened to be in the right place chairing at the right time. But we had a lot of individuals, a lot of teachers, professional staff, administrators, central office staff, board members, our district evaluation advisory committee, all got together back in 2015. A subcommittee got together and worked very hard, made drafts and redrafts to a process to improve, as Steve said, a meaningful process of evaluation. And out of that was born the APP, which is to increase the focus on meaningful, transformative, and innovative methods in the classroom. From these drafts, it went to the total DIAC committee, which gave valuable input and insight, and we were able to finalize it. And during the 16-17 school year, we were able to implement it for those highly effective teachers who voluntarily chose to pioneer the APP. We were hoping to get about 20 to 25 people to serve as the pioneers. We received 38 teachers who chose to be pioneers. There was 25 at the elementary and middle school, and another 12 or 13 at the high school. And from that came valuable research done by each of the teachers, and it became hopefully a great process moving forward. Tonight we have 3 teachers here to talk about their research and their APP. And Melissa O'Donnell, who is from Littlebrook, will start the process, followed by Tiffany Warden, who's from Johnson Park, and then Rick Miller from the high school. So I'll turn it over to Melissa.
I don't need PowerPoint, I have my stuff right here.
Okay.
So now we're going to go down to kindergarten with the little 5-year-olds, very different from the last presentation. So I am Melissa O'Donnell, and I've been teaching kindergarten at Littlebrook since 1996 when I was hired by Bob Ginsberg. I've been in kindergarten all that time, and every year it's a new adventure, and I do love every second of it. Many ideas have come and gone in different programs over the last 20 years. I will say that definitely by choosing the APP as an optional alternative to the APR has been one of, if not the very best idea Princeton has implemented since I've been here. I have learned the most through this APP since I've been here. So when Annie approached me about it in the beginning of last year, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to try something new. It was our first year implementing this. And as it turns out, I did become a stronger teacher, and my students became stronger storytellers through my storytelling project that I put together for them. So I had read several books over the summer. I just want to share this Mindset for Learning, which many of us have read, is wonderful. I was reading that through the summer, and also The Whole Brain Child, right here. So 2 chapters in particular from this book were storytelling, harnessing the power of narratives to shape identity, and using storytelling to build positive mental pathways. In The Whole Brain Child, they talked about how storytelling assists in bringing the integration of our right brain, traditionally seen as more of the emotional side, and our left brain, the more logical side, where logic originates. So through my reading that I just happened to do over the summer, I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a try. I'm going to go with storytelling because I read up a lot about that and it makes a lot of sense. So the idea is that our lives are made up of stories. And when we mirror and retell stories, we help children make sense of their feelings and their actions. And this is a large part of child development. So based on the research I had read, I knew this was super important for the kindergartners, and I was ready to build a whole program around the idea for the APP. So I wanted to start with storytelling. I wanted to start the program with fairy tales. So I started gathering a whole lot of fairy tale books. I ordered online, I went to Barnes & Noble. So I did, one of them was Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So I came up with all different versions of the Three Bears, like a regular Three Bears, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Tacky Locks and the Three Bears, Goldilocks and just one bear, another version of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Another example was for the Little Red Riding Hood, and I was able to find children, little girls who were African American, Little Red and the Hungry Lion, Little Red Gliding Hood, and Little Red Riding Hood. So I was very happy with these choices that I made for that. So what would happen was I would choose one fairy tale, and we would study the fairy tale throughout the whole week. And then we would compare the stories. How are they the same? How are they different? And then I had a storytelling chart, and we would label. I gave the children little stickies, and we would they would put like Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Baby Bear for the characters and the setting and the problem in the story and how it was solved, and different words that kept coming up in the story. So like too hot, too cold, the word too kept coming up, and Mama Bear and Papa Bear. So there were a lot of different skills going on when we worked on that with the fairy tales. So once we got through the fairy tales, and also at the end of each week, I just recreated these. I don't have any from last year, obviously, but at the end of each week, they created little puppets, and I would make them with them. So this is Little Red Riding Hood and her grandma and the Big Bad Wolf. And it's very simple. I kept it simple like this, popsicle sticks and index cards, because they could make this at home. So I didn't have dittos or runoff or anything like that. We made these together at the end of the week. And it was sweet. They would reenact the story together with a friend or a little group, or at circle we would all do it. And then they would take them home and they would retell the story to their parents. So they were really learning about fairy tales, once upon a time, the characters, and of course they all lived happily ever after. So they were the fairy tales that they had learned about. By this point, they realized, like I said, with the once upon a time and the main characters and the problem and living happily ever after, then we started connecting this with stories in our own lives. And that was really where we were heading with this. So I read them this book, I Am a Story. And it's about storytelling from the cavemen through now. And we talked about the children, how they used to sit around the fire and tell stories. So then we created all the children created a little log and a little flame, and we glued them on a big piece of oak tag. And I took that out during storytelling time when they story told about their own lives. So I would take that out and I would put that in the middle of the rug, and we would come like real, real close, and we would come in and we would talk about our little stories about what happened throughout the day. So I had and I will this year again, I would have a large storytelling chart, and then throughout the day, the children can put little stickies up there. Like if they played well with someone, they played blocks with someone, they had a disagreement, there was a problem, and so they would illustrate that or write about that on the storyboard. And then at the end of the day, or at some point during the day, we would go through the stickies and we would talk about them, and then we would pick one sticky, one that I thought was most important to share, to storytell over the little campfire. So it was one day, once upon a time in Mrs. O'Donnell's class in room 21, there was a little boy named Johnny and a little girl named Susie, and they had a problem. And then Johnny and Susie helped tell the story, And then we learn our lesson, and then, of course, they all lived happily ever after. So they always live happily ever after. So what I found was this storytelling program that I put together through the APP. All of my children were excited to participate in these storytelling experiences, but I will say that I particularly found this important for my ESL learners and my struggling readers and writers. I think they all found success, but I saw like my little ESL children, they were able to retell with the puppets. My kids who are really learning just how to have a conversation, how to communicate, they could do that with their little puppets. And so I felt like I really grew a lot last year from this, and I'm going to do it again this year. I'm going to actually speak to the parents at Back to School Night on Thursday about this storytelling program. And I have little books that the children, each child will have a little storytelling book, and they can keep their ideas in there as well as the stickies that they might want to share with a fifth grade buddy or a grand pal or at their house with their family. So yeah, this was an awesome idea. And again, I really think I learned so much last year through this, and so did my children. So thank you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. My name is Tiffany Worden, and I'm a third grade teacher at JP. I'm also the curriculum team leader for literacy at JP. My alternative professional project centered on the question, how can students identify their interests, turn those interests into passions, and use those passions to improve the world around them? So where did this question come from? Last year, as you know, one of our district goals was differentiation. So I got out Carol Ann Tomlinson, and something that I was reading really stuck with me, that we can differentiate instruction in 3 ways: student readiness, student learning profile, and also student interest. And I felt I was differentiating by readiness and learning style well in my classroom, but I really wanted to genuinely incorporate students' interests and strengths into my lessons. Because as we know, the research shows that when we tap into student interest, their motivation, their engagement, and their ownership really increase. So I did some research and found this idea of a passion project, which is like an independent study of a topic that students feel passionate about investigating. So I envisioned this project kind of in 3 phases. The first phase was we spent time really the kids spent time articulating their interests. We took a few inventories and surveys and reflected on the results. One boy started to notice, one of my students, that he was a visual learner, that he loved to draw, that he loved to build, and he was so excited that this was his strength. He was really able to reflect on that, and he went home and told his mom, and she sent me this email that it really boosted his confidence. So now that we knew, the kids knew what their interests were, it was time for phase 2. Which was to do something with their interests, to make a project. And so we planned and created and revised and planned some more and created some more, and there was such positive energy in my classroom. The kids were so invested in these projects. So here we have a girl who loved to sculpt, and so she taught us ways that we could use, model with clay. Another student loved science, so she researched the parts of an atom, how electricity works, and she was able to show this. We did this like in a conference style, so some of the kids were set up and other kids visited those stations to learn more about what their classmates were doing. Another student loved the macaw parrots and just was telling us a little bit more about what makes them so special. So I really feel like through these projects, the kids' interests really became their passions. They became so deeply invested in their interests. When the students reflected, I noticed that not only were they developing their interest into passions, but they were learning really important life skills, executive functioning skills. This is a wordle of their reflection. I just typed in the keywords, and as you see, what really stands out, planning a project, doing something step by step, revising, and other great skills like creativity and imagination. So not only were their interests turning into passions, they were learning all these great skills as well. So now it was time for the third phase of the project. And at the time, I was on the Service Learning Committee. I went to Zoe Weil's The World Becomes What We Teach book talk. And I started thinking, okay, how can we take these kids' passions and have the kids use it to make a positive difference in some way in the community? So we read some books about kids around the world who made positive impacts in their community. We were really inspired, and here are some of the second projects we came up with. A child that was noticed we had signs in Braille in our school decided he was going to research Braille, teach people the Braille alphabet. Another student looked up inspiring upstander quotes from history and made anti-bullying keychains for everyone in the classroom. And then students enlisted their classmates to bring in items that could be recycled, but actually made a guide and showed them how you can take recyclable objects and actually reuse them instead of recycling. So those were some of the projects that came out of that third phase. Here are the kids' reflections. I think they really enjoyed the process. They liked how they were able to use their inspiration. They enjoyed making other people happy with their projects. They liked sharing their ideas. I also really enjoyed the project because I felt like it was more like action research in my classroom. I could really investigate a question that I was thinking about, and also I really enjoyed being able to synthesize the professional development I was going to, the books I was reading, our district mission statement, everything kind of synthesized into this one project that I was able to really apply to my teaching. So I would recommend it to any teacher. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Rick Miller from Princeton High School. So I was part of the DIAC committee that had initially talked about it. And so when it finally came to fruition and I had a chance to pursue it, I didn't hesitate. I knew it was something I really wanted to do. So first, I would like to thank you, the board, and the administration for giving us this opportunity. It really does reinforce the idea that we're professionals and that we're constantly looking to refine and improve what we do. I heard mentioned a number of times tonight, try new things or a community of learners. And really, this is what the APP does. It reinforces that we're all in a learning process. And it's not just about some endpoint, but it's about the growth. It's about the process itself. And I think this is a huge improvement over the state-mandated regulations that fall into the APR. While that's valuable and everybody's tried to streamline it and make it as useful as possible, I think this APP, as you've been hearing, is extremely valuable. It really does promote student growth and teacher growth. I've been in the district for a fairly long time, and I said I never want to stop growing. When I feel like I've learned enough or I'm happy where I am, that's when I retire, and I'm definitely not ready for that yet. So a little bit about what I decided to do. My personal interest, or an interest, I teach history, and content literacy has always been a really important part of what I do. I really believe that we all have to be teachers of writing. We can't just rely on the language arts teachers to do it, and then in history, we teach the history and expect them to know how to write. So when the APP opportunity came through, I wanted to work on writing. Well, at the time, I was teaching 4 sections of AP US, had about 100 AP US students, another 25 US 1 students. So I tried to integrate a great deal of writing. Well, one of the problems when you have, as any language arts teacher or other teacher can tell you, 100 essays, it's hard to give quick feedback, immediate feedback, and really constructive comments. And I like to try to do that. So I decided to come up with peer feedback as the focus of my APP. I really wanted to get the students more involved in giving more frequent feedback. So we could do more writing, they could get more feedback on different parts of their writing, and then we could revise, we could re-edit, and then we could do more, and then I'm also giving feedback along the way. And I thought it would serve multiple purposes. One, they're going to grow within the writing. Also, the metacognition is really important because they're internalizing the rubrics as they're grading per se, grading each other, as they're giving feedback to each other, they're really internalizing what they're doing. They're internalizing those rubrics. So as I created this, I met with other teachers, so one of the advantages I found was that it was very collaborative in nature. Even though it was my individual project, I met with teachers from my department, I met with teachers from other departments, and I really got to learn about the best practices that are going on in our building already. So for me, that was particularly valuable. So I met with a number of language arts teachers, I talked about how they did peer feedback, and so I started with things like a thesis statement or an introduction, smaller parts of an essay. The students would give feedback, and then I asked for feedback from my students. So what do you find valuable about this process? What do you like? And that's something I did all year long. So this process evolved based on the feedback. So one of the things they asked for was more guidance on how they would actually provide the comments, provide the feedback to each other. So they asked me to create a guideline checklist with comments. And so what I did was I took my AP rubrics and I modified them for both my AP classes and my US 1 classes, and I developed the feedback guidelines based on those rubrics. So I taught the rubrics, we taught them how to then look at the essays, how to write the essays, and then how to provide the feedback based on that. So I thought that was really, really valuable. We would use heterogeneous groupings as well as homogeneous groupings. So I would mix up how I grouped the students. Sometimes it was one-on-one feedback, 2 students would exchange papers. At other times I had a group set up where a group would collaborate together on providing the feedback on a student's paper. So as I said, I found it extremely valuable. And one of the things, especially in an AP class, but in all classes, we're constantly looking at the depth versus the speed with which you have to get through material. AP, we're sort of done, not our teaching, but we're done for the AP exam by end of April. So we have a lot to cover. The students, based on their feedback, found this extremely valuable to take the time, to spend a day, to spend a week working on this skill. So I found that very, very useful. So we would do a writing workshop for a week. Other times we would do it for a day, other times for half a period. But they benefited, they grew, I felt I grew as a professional. So I think one of these things, one of the advantages of the APP is that really it's about that experimentation. It's about this idea that we're willing to take risks. We're willing to try something we haven't tried before. And yes, sometimes we won't grow as much as we hope we will, but that's a learning process. That's where we learn. That's how we will grow and move forward. And I think this APP really is designed to do that. So I appreciated it. At the end, my dilemma now is not whether I would pursue an APP again this year, but I have many things I want to work on, and it's which one do I choose. So I just wanted to say I thank you for allowing us to pursue this growth, because it's what we're all in this to do together. So thank you very much. Thank you.
I just have to say how inspired I am by the people in this, the teachers in this room. We talk a lot at the board level, at the administrative level. We talk about policy, we talk about programs, but schools are fundamentally about people. And when you have truly inspiring, knowledgeable people who want to take those risks, who want to push themselves, then it's not a surprise that our students want to follow. And when we talk about a culture of innovation in teaching and learning, you saw it evidenced here tonight. And I just want to thank Lou. I want to thank all of our teachers who took on the APP. And I look forward to hearing more of these stories as more and more teachers take advantage of this opportunity. So thank you all.
Can I ask a question? And I just want to say thank you. I echo the thanks. These were wonderful presentations. I was one of the board members who sat in on the DIAC sessions as this was brainstormed, and it was so wonderful to see this start, as a very small idea, and everyone got so excited about it as it came to be. So thank you. One thing I always said is I hope teachers have the opportunity, there's never enough time, but to teach one another what they've learned, and to really learn from that. And I'm not sure, and so this is sort of a question, did some of these turn into unconference presentations, or are there opportunities in the future that other teachers can benefit from the work of their colleagues. It's very exciting.
Yeah, he'll let me answer. As the principal of Little Brook last year, I had 9 teachers who did an APP. I was as inspired as they were. I loved every conversation we had about their work as they went through the year, and loved the end result of the projects. Every single one of those 9 loved what they did. I think it was one of the single most important changes we made to the evaluation system, and I think you heard that from them as well. But to answer your question, at least at Little Brook, one of our last staff meetings of the year, I had all of those 9 people share their projects with the staff, and I think that that really will encourage some others to take a stab at it this year. But I think that we also had talked about possibly looking at some of those as topics for the unconference this year. So, yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you for that presentation. Really, really exciting stuff. So again, it's just such a great time to be here. We're really excited with everything that you, Lou, and Annie, and all the teachers are doing. So with that, we move on to the HIB report is a consent. So we can move on to our board committee reports. And as always, we start with our student board members. So take it away, guys, and really excited to hear what you're going to say tonight.
All right. Hello, everyone. So I'm very happy to say that the first few weeks of our school have been very smooth and successful for the most part. However, one of the major roadblocks that we've run into has been about scheduling. It's definitely been probably one of the only significant issues plaguing the majority of our student body. So one of the biggest issues that we heard were a pretty sizable portion of people trying to get into classes that simply were not available, such as namely organic chemistry and Python. In addition, once in a survey that we handed out that we posted, one sophomore recounts one of her struggles with Python, in which she tried to apply for the class for 2 years in a row and still has had it denied, which is definitely an issue if this student wishes to pursue comp sci in the future. And we definitely wanted to bring this up so could hopefully make you guys aware of the issues that a sizable portion of the student body are facing at the moment. Okay, so furthermore, based on our current survey that approximately has 120 responses at the time of me giving this speech, an overwhelming amount of students have definitely expressed their concern with the new 8-minute break added between second and third period. A great majority of them do not find it particularly helpful, whereas many others are simply ambivalent about it and don't see the use for it. And if I had to estimate, I'd say around 90% of student responses have suggested moving the 8 minutes to add to our lunch break. As at the moment, our lunch break is 30 minutes, which is around the bare minimum required. And many other school districts, namely West Windsor Public School, West Windsor Plainsboro Public Schools, and Lawrence Township Public Schools have 40-minute lunch breaks, whereas the congestion in our school's cafeteria make those who are buying lunch often have issue finishing their lunches in time and are often either late to their 6th period class or have to eat in their class, and some teachers are kind of strict about these sort of policies. Lastly, for those who want to make up work, see teachers, or perhaps take tests, the 30-minute break is often one of the only times to do that. And I personally have definitely had some experiences where 30 minutes is simply not enough to cut it for these scenarios. Right.
Yeah, and the second thing we wanted to talk about was on the homework-free weekend schedules for this year. So we've developed kind of like our own, we've built off of like the standard homework-free weekends and kind of designed what we think would be beneficial for students. So it would include the current Thanksgiving, winter break, spring break, and Mother's Day schedules, which have been working very well and have been planned very smoothly. As for some changes, we believe that having the weekend of October 27th to 29th would be better than having the NJEA convention in November, just because the November already has a lot of breaks inherent to it. So having it be in October would not only give students a chance to de-stress earlier on in the year, but it also gives a lot of seniors who are completing early applications with the famous November 1st deadline more time to work on that with the homework-free weekend. Not only that, we believe that a homework-free weekend on the week of January 26th to 28th is right after midterms would be helpful, just because at that point, students have finished taking their midterms, so they have no content that they need to study for, no content of work that they have to make up. So it would be truly a weekend where they could actually relax and take time to do something fun with their friends and their family, having just recently completed their midterm exams. And lastly, we believe that a weekend on President's Day, so the Friday of President's Day, which is February 16th to the 19th, which is also Chinese New Year's, the 16th, we believe that having a homework-free weekend on that weekend would be beneficial, just because it would allow students who are participating in Chinese New Year be able to observe that with their family and have more time to spend with them. But it is also would just be beneficial in terms of like spreading out the amount of homework-free weekends so students can have a more balanced overall year. And overall, students have really appreciated these homework-free weekends, so we think that being able to expand them would really benefit. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Amy, since you're the student board rep, so you guys can think bigger than other people can draw you back. So why don't you just go big with 52 homework-free weekends?
I'm sure the student body would very much appreciate that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so with that, we'll go on to the other committees, and we're starting with facilities and Chair.
I did want to appreciate what they said about the college application due dates. That is something to consider. So I'm looking. Okay.
Good, thanks. Yeah, before we move on, any other questions, comments? Okay, so then on to you, Daphne.
Thanks, Pat. So the Facilities Committee met yesterday here in Valley Road for approximately 3 hours. We met with town officials and discussed if there were any obstacles to building a school here at Valley Road. We asked the town officials if they had any concerns with the district building on Valley Road, and we were told the town had no objections or concerns. We also met with the district's architect to discuss the timeline and a process for the referendum. We reviewed several options for the construction of a 5-6 school and placement of administrative offices, potential placement. In the next few weeks, the superintendent will select a group of teachers and administrators to visit a modern open concept school design at a school in Pennsylvania for their input. In addition to talking about building a 5-6 school and administrative offices, the district also plans to make upgrades at the 4 elementary schools and the middle school. Additionally, we are planning, in addition to the high school, parking is a concern, and we are looking for solutions to address this need. Just so the public's aware, our school district can only go out to referendum 4 times a year: January, March, September, and November. Before we can go out to referendum, all plans must be reviewed and approved by the New Jersey Department of Education. According to our architects, the plans must be submitted to the state at least 6 months prior to the vote. As a result, we are now targeting September 2018 as a date for a referendum, but that, of course, is subject to change. Our next facility meeting needs to be rescheduled, and we will post that on the, but there's a conflict with, yes, so we will have to post that on the website.
Okay, thank you. And next, finance, and I believe, is Connie going to do the
Okay,
finance?
yes.
Yes, thanks.
The Finance Committee met tonight at 6 o'clock. We reviewed the minutes, and they were approved. Bills are paid through August, and we're in good shape. Through September, even better. And we're in great shape.
Good job, Connie.
And also, the interest has been paid on the bonds, our bonds, okay? Topics that are on tonight's agenda for review, we reviewed them. And some of these topics are the renewal of the transportation contracts 2017 through 2018, revised, statement of assurance of the lead testing program, that contract renewal for a telephone system and maintenance, non-public school security aid initiative, and general business items such as the BOE, Board of Education travel expense. Our next meeting will be October 23rd, 6:30, Valley Road.
Thanks, Connie, and I guess you get a chance to take a breath because you're up next on, on personnel.
Okay, the Personnel Committee met on September 18th. We reviewed and approved the minutes for August 28th. We discussed the ongoing district residency audit search. This audit is to ensure all students are living at the address their parents or guardians have listed as their primary address in Princeton. Next, the committee reviewed 2 job descriptions: Senior Manager of Human Resource and Community Affairs and Manager of Human Resource and Information Systems Specialist. These 2 positions are upgrades for existing staff. We have received 4 new staff requests. This is due to an increase in student enrollment over the last 4 years. This increase has caused an increase in paperwork for the Human Resource Department, the Business Office, and Student Services. The request for a part-time person in the Human Resource Department, a senior bookkeeper / accounts payable person in the Business Office, an administrative secretary in Student Services, and a part-time person for alumni affairs as alumni affairs specialist. The committee approved the observation and evaluation forms for the principals and supervisors. For the school panel improvement, we reviewed and approved the list of recommended names. This panel will focus on professional development and mentoring at each school level. September leaves of absence were reviewed and other confidential matters related to the staff. Next meeting, October 16th, Valley Road.
Thank you, Connie. And next, personnel, and is it going to be Betsy Baglio or Betsy and Daphne?
Policy. It's
Policy.
policy.
Sorry, what did I say?
And it's my month. We
Oh.
switch off, so
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
so I'll take this month. We have 3 policies on for actually we met twice in September. On September 6th at Valley Road, we worked just on the wellness policy that is before us for a second reading this evening, and September 11th at 1 p.m. was our official policy meeting for September. They were both open to the public. We do have 3 policies on for a first reading this evening. And as I said, we have 4 policies for a second reading, including this wellness policy. Daphne and I just wanted to say the development of the policy began with recommendations of a wellness committee that was appointed by the superintendent over the summer. And the policy is a result of a great deal of collaboration on the part of this wellness committee, staff members, including nurses, teachers, and administrators, members of the public, and the policy committee. The committee is especially grateful to community members Stephanie Chorney, Carla Cook, and Mia Sachs for their passion and commitment to the wellness of Princeton Public School students, and some of them are here, so thank you. Our next meeting is Monday, October 2nd, this Monday at 1 p.m. The first part of our meeting is closed to the public. We are doing a New Jersey School Board's training. If you really want to come, you can come. It's closed for training for board members, but at 2:30 we will have an open session from 2:30 to 3 o'clock. And you are invited and encouraged to attend.
Okay, thanks, Betsy, and now you're up again.
I'm up again.
For student achievement.
Exactly. We met on September 18th at noon here in this room. We have some textbook approvals on the agenda this evening, and we have some overnight trips as well. We heard from Dr. Cohen and Dr. Carell about the summer science enrichment programs, which you heard about tonight as well, that very exciting work. We spoke about the upcoming parent survey that we discussed, the most recent draft. There will be a parent survey coming to all K-12 parents at the end of October, early November. So please look for that, and please do respond when you get the survey. Annie presented to us the summer professional development that took place in the Teaching Academy this summer. She shared, and I think I have the numbers right, 248 different teachers attended, but 710 attendees took professional development, which means many, many teachers took more than one course. Only 2 outside consultants were hired. That means 18 staff members and 4 supervisors provided this professional development to one another. So really harnessing the power that we have within this district, and that's very exciting. We also continued the discussion of the 2018-19 school year calendar and started a discussion on the start time changes and some of those implications. We have a new process for a field trip review. You'll see on the agenda this evening. We sort of started over with the full list of field trips that were approved year after year, and we've started to combine. We have a new list, a new accurate list that will be added to throughout the year. And we spoke about our ideas for the parent lecture series that will be kicking off at some point this year. So our next meeting is scheduled for October 6th, although I have just heard of a conflict with the date. So if the date changes, that will be posted on our website. We encourage you to attend this meeting. And unrelated to student achievement, I would just like to say Bagels with the Board is this Friday, September 29th, here in this room, 8:30 a.m. It was very well received in June. We hope you come back. More bagels. And we will have an evening session in December and an afternoon session in March. The December date is December 6th at 6 o'clock. March has to be scheduled. So please join us.
Thanks, Bessie. Okay, so that moving on, then, we're at our second public comment section, and this is for agenda items. So this is item J. So if anyone would like to comment on agenda items, please come forward. And again, just state your name and your address, and you're welcome to comment.
Good evening. Hi. Stephanie Chorney, Race Street. So first, I wanted to say thank you to all the teachers and to the science supervisor for their presentations tonight. I'm a little out of breath, but it was really inspiring to hear all the great stories, so that was nice. And thank you for your comments of appreciation for the work on the wellness policy and the Green Team efforts. Tonight, you all will be discussing and voting on both the updated sustainability and wellness policies. I am appreciative to have been able to provide input into both of those policies and to have worked for almost 10 years on these issues in the town and schools. I acknowledge that over the past couple of years, the superintendent has championed these issues by establishing a framework of action through the Green Teams and now through the school and district wellness committees. These committees are not, however, a substitute for strong board policy. I am disappointed that the board is poised to pass a sustainability and wellness policy without more measurable goals and concrete recommendations. I have spoken many times to the board about the importance of progressive sustainability recommendations regarding waste management, energy efficiency, and safe cleaning products. The need for strong facilities leadership is paramount. But tonight, I will focus my remarks about wellness and specifically nutrition. As a pediatrician, children's health is my priority. Countless studies show how important healthful foods free of sugar, artificial ingredients, and processing are for growing minds. I know this is something that all school boards can support. I cannot impress upon you enough that a snack rack, like a picture I sent you today, does not belong in our schools. In case any of you don't know what a snack rack is, in every school there's a rack by the cashier that has various items that students can buy. And at GW on the first day of school this year, what was on the snack rack were Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Fruit Loops, Cocoa Puffs, Doritos, and potato chips. That is what we're allowing our students to buy, and only those items were on the rack. The cafeteria is an extension of our classroom, where students should be able to eat in a similar manner in which they are taught. Fresh fruits and vegetables through salad bars, organic unsweetened milk, no artificial ingredients like those found in Doritos and sugar cereals. Just 3 simple changes could significantly improve the cafeteria's food choices. Some of our students eat 2 out of their 3 meals per day at our schools. It is about equity. Don't let the food service company make money off the backs of our students by selling them junk food. It is an embarrassment. If you're not going to change this through policy, then I hope the district will take full advantage of the Green Teams and wellness committees and write stronger procedures and guidelines for our district to ensure compliance with the healthiest nutrition standards possible for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks. Is there any more comments on agenda items? Okay. So now we are on to item L, because item K will be consent agenda item. So item. Sure. On item K, if there's any comments, just remind me, Stephanie, how do we do comments? In order, or is this the right time for
Yeah,
comments on K?
you can go through, just mention
Sure.
what they are. And
Okay.
we just don't vote on them until.
Right. All right, very well then. So we're on item K, 1 or 2. Any questions or comments? Do we need a motion to open? No. Okay, so fine. Off you go then. You're good to go.
Okay. So for.
Policies.
So for policy on the second reading, so what is it, 7461, the district's sustainability. Way down at the end, it talks about safe routes, it's about biking and things like this. And I don't know where this comes up, but we need more bike racks at the high school, especially if we want kids to bike, and that's really down near the pack. Plus, since I've been driving my son this year, with the addition of the kids, it is really not safe at the intersection of Walnut and the street that, I'm sorry.
Houghton?
At the pack, yeah, Franklin.
Oh, Franklin,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know that usually the guards come on around 7:35, 7:40. They really need to be there at like 7:15. I'm really nervous about the middle schoolers who come flying through the parking lot, from the CP area on their bikes, walking, their phones, the whole bit, chatting with their friends, and then want to just cross, the street there. I know they put in those 2 yellow corners, but I've been driving for 6 years, and now there's a bus that we see, and it's just gotten much more crowded. It's amazing. I was really surprised with the addition of kids. So I don't know kind of who that falls under, what we look at. But the other thing I've heard, too, is the traffic flow at the high school on Houghton Road. We might want to think about making that one way, so they're coming from Walnut, and turning into the school. Because I guess the buses drop off on the side. They don't even go in. And I don't know if they usually do or whatever. But people are turning from the left, the right. But the additional students have made it, it's a little tougher to get into school.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Debbie, that's for your Princeton Police Traffic Control. That's who your crossing guards work for, your Princeton Police Department, and they handle that. 'Cause when we have a problem, we report that to the traffic control. And
Okay,
they address it.
but we could decide if we wanted. I guess we could work on that. I know at Little Brook, we made it, and I'm not sure how it happened, but they made it one way coming down Magnolia a bunch of years ago. You couldn't turn from Magnolia left
It's not
to
as
drop your kid
congested
off.
there.
No, there was congestion at Little Brook.
Yeah, well, that was just a school decision.
Well, no, I'm saying, but it made the flow, it made the traffic flow extremely nicely. That's what I'm saying. So they did it there. All right, well, I will bring it up with the traffic, or from the school, maybe we can have them come in.
So Debbie, I've heard that concern as well. And so Steve, is there anything that?
Sure,
Yeah.
we can talk to the town. And certainly with the bike racks, you have a principal who loves to
Bikes?
ride, and I'm sure that would be happy to work out finding some more bike racks and a place to put them. But as far as the crossing guards go and the direction of traffic, we would have to work that out with the town.
Okay.
Right, but as
I'm just really nervous, I'm telling you, and this is with good weather. We've had good weather, honestly, at the start of school. We get a rainy day, oh my God, it'll be really bad. So I'm just, nervous about students.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments on the policies in item K? Okay.
Well, I just have a follow-up question based on what we were being told and the picture that was shown in terms of the snack rack or whatever. While those things all look really yummy, I totally agree that, if there's only those options, Cocoa Puffs and rice and Frosted Flakes, what do we need to do with health services?
It's a great question, and let me just talk about the way that policy is framed, because I'm actually really happy about the wellness policy and the flexibility it provides, the vision and the flexibility it provides. So there's clear statements in the policy about meeting and exceeding standards and about ensuring that our kids are receiving healthy, nutritious food and appropriate levels of physical activity. What the policy does is it gives flexibility to building-based wellness committees that can take a look at the snacks that are being offered, the level of sugar in something, and try out new approaches and try out new. The committee has oversight over the snacks that are going to be served. Beyond, they don't have to approve pretzels or popcorn, but things beyond that, they would, under this policy, they would have to take a look at. And the building-based committees would be comprised of principal, nurse, teacher, parents, and if possible, students would be on those committees, as well as the food service people. So it's bringing those people together with a common vision of how we can have the most nutritious food for our kids and the best kinds of offerings for our breakfast and lunch. I think we're going to come up with some really good ideas. I can tell you already, just not through any policy, just through discussion with food service, at our elementary schools, we don't serve any cereals that have more than 3 grams of sugar in them. So when I got that picture, I just messaged food service and I said, can you please talk to the building principal at the middle school and see what you guys can work out? That's the idea behind this, is so that rather than having a policy that legislates every single detail, the number of grams or the kind of milk, like you have a group of people with a common vision who are going to try out new approaches and then share those back to a district wellness committee. It's going to meet twice a year to see if there are innovations that happen at the building level that we can then migrate to all of our schools.
Great, that sounds like a great system, and and this is coming from a guy who had a bag of Cheez-Its for dinner tonight. So, but to Stephanie's question, if someone sees something, I mean, can you say with all this in place that maybe in 2-3 months we're gonna see a change there?
If people want to see changes, then they can, once this is in place and we have the building-based committees meeting, they'll know who their representatives are. They can talk directly to the building principal, to the school nurse, to the parent representatives, and they can start pursuing ideas to improve the quality of the lunch. We're already talking to the food service people about coming to us proactively with new ideas for snacks, Terra chips, beet chips, sweet potatoes. Like, there's all kinds of good stuff that's out there. So,
as long as your policy gives good direction and gives you the room, then your policy.
Microphone.
Sorry. As long as your policy gives good direction and your board is saying, we want to make this better and we want to follow. We want to follow good practices, then you just keep getting better and better. If you make your policy restrictive, then A happens,
and that's it.
but B never follows.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why you want to make sure that you have good policy, but you don't trickle into procedure. So the policy is good, and then the procedure follows that will make you better. But comments like that from the pediatrician, pictures like that to say, hey,
Right.
and then phone calls are made, and then we're better because we're a good community and we look after each other.
Good, thank you. Okay. Any other questions on K on the policies? If there are none, then we need a motion for item L. All right, can I have a motion for
item L1.
L1? We're doing these one at a time, so item L.
Just L1 is because that's personnel actions. The other don't need
Right, thank you.
a roll call.
Okay, so can I have a motion for item L1? Justin, and a second. Connie? And we do this electronically, correct?
Correct.
L1's
L-
personnel.
L1 is personnel. Any questions or comments on L1 before we?
Did we
This is
take off
roll
H?
call, so I have to
We modify?
call the roll on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Oh, you have to call roll, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Evelyn, did you have a question or not? Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Patrick Sullivan,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Justin Doran,
Yes.
Bill Hare,
Yes.
Daphne Kendall. Yes. Fern Sproul,
Yes.
Greg Stankiewicz,
Yes.
Connie Witter,
Yes.
and Evelyn Spahn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments on any of the other items under L? And if there are none, then again, we're going to just move through this, but we'll just give people a chance to comment on anything under the items under agenda item M.
So what are we, oh, are we on M?
Yes, on M.
M1? So what are we paying Power School another $25,000 for?
It's not another $25,000. It's a correction. Last
Oh,
month
okay.
it was 24,000 and it should have been 25.
Got it. Who's in charge of that right now? Like in the district, since we don't have a technology?
That comes out of curriculum.
You can raise your hand nice and high, Annie.
Down there.
Sorry, Annie. You know, if there wasn't so much to read, I could get through it quicker, but, so I apologize for putting you on the spot. But, so there has been concerns raised that the default for Power School is to send notifications of grades. And although I inform parents that they can turn that notification off, they're not pleased that that's the default. And so they want, what are our abilities to have the developer make a change to that?
Well, let me just answer that in more general terms. There are a number of things that we're looking at related to Power School Learning and Power Teacher Pro that we are having conversations about, both as a curriculum instruction office, the technology office, and with our consultants. So that is something that I'll add to our list. It is something that's already been brought up, but I will make sure that we discuss that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steph. Any other questions on M?
Yes, M2. I was just curious what this was. I just didn't know who it was for or what it was.
Okay, this is the new, yes. Strength-based behavior consulting.
Yes, this is our consultant, positive psychology. Katie Curran, who is our consultant around positive psychology, will be working with us again this year.
So this is about the same that we paid last year?
It's actually a little bit less.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some of that money comes through our insurance company, if I'm not mistaken.
The Aetna grant, it's stated, yeah, about 25.
Based on wellness, it includes both staff and student wellness. But yes, some of the funding is coming through Aetna.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the items M?
Yep.
Okay.
A 4. Really, I mean, personally, I'm waiting for IT to give us their, for our new guy to give us his kind of view on where he's going with everything. So I was a little confused why we're buying more laptops or upgrading.
Actually, our new guys looked at this one, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
That this was a recommendation that had come through technology, and it just needed new laptops and additional laptops, and our soon-to-be technology supervisor did take a look at this and approve this one. Am I not mistaken, Annie?
Yeah, that's correct. And this is an immediate need that we have in terms of either replacement or additional computers for different programs. So that was immediate. We needed to get that done. But yes, he.
And none of this
looked at
falls
it.
under that 100,000 we approved a couple months ago? No? Okay.
Well, Stephanie, I'd like to thank you for laying out what we're getting, where we're getting it. It definitely makes it easier to understand. Thank you.
I just added it to the agenda. It
Okay.
came from the tech department.
Thank you, Tech Department. We really do love technology. We just want to know what we're buying.
These are upgrades. These are actually drives for existing computers that we have. In doing this, we thought this would actually save a lot of money. Instead of buying brand new equipment, we're upgrading what we currently have, and this brings us a little more in line.
That's wonderful and sustainable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go.
Your microphone,
Okay.
I also had a question on 5. So the elementary list was not what we went over. Yeah.
SAC meeting. We needed to give Riverside a little more time to work on their list.
Okay.
And so after the SAC meeting, we received their list. So the only addition to the elementary list is what we added from Riverside's trips. That
was like 3 pages.
Well, it added a few more. I think it added an additional page.
I thought it was a lot more.
I do think at Student Achievement, we were still, at the time of the meeting, we were still receiving some other requests. And so the idea is going forward, if there are any other trips that are not on this list that we're approving now, we'll be seeing them through Student Achievement. They'll come to this board with the idea that next summer we'll have a fully updated list that we'll approve at once in the summer. But it was my understanding that it might shift a little bit, not shift, but be added to a little bit before today's meeting.
All right. So we originally had 1 page, and this is 2.5
for elementary?
pages. Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was at least
Yes.
2 pages.
No, I went back, yeah. And this is 2.5.
Huh.
So I was just surprised how big it was, because middle school and high school were the same. No. No, there's a lot more. There's a lot more.
Yeah. I'm looking, some of these look like fun.
I did have a couple of questions about the field trips. I'm glad to see that they're there and that we're encompassing them. The forensics team, the line on forensics team, maybe it's a typo, it says debate varies year-long, and then it says clubs, tournaments, and band competition. I'm just thinking that's a typo.
What school was that? Was that the middle school?
It just says something for the forensics team, and there's a band competition going on with the forensics team. I mean, if that is happening,
Oh, yes, yes.
that's
yes.
impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited for them, but I mean, we're doing some great stuff, and I'm good with that. My biggest issue, and as always been with field trips, is in looking at, you guys are doing a great job of encompassing all this, and this is really great work. And we've talked about this before. Our biggest concern is with specific clubs and specific groups is looking at where they say these are year-long clubs, tournaments, for science, for debate, for social studies, for different things. What are the days, we had talked about this before, what are the lost instructional days for these students? And I know for some of these groups, they may take certain students on certain trips and some not. For Model UN, not all students attend all trips, but for some students, they attend, on the executive committee, attend all trips. So even though we're approving this, at some point, we're going to get slammed when we find out that some child has missed, a huge number of instructional days on this field trip that
Potentially.
Potentially that we approved. Now, I'm going to go with it because I'm going to respect the leaders and what they do, and for them to make good educational decisions for these on behalf of the students. But to remember, they are student debaters, they are student UN, they are student Olympiads, but we are really giving a lot of blanket leeway here on this by doing this, Betsy, in this format.
So Evelyn, just so what we tried to do is, Betsy and Annie have tried to, and Carol before, we're trying to get our main concern was equity, that we were hearing that some schools were going, let's say, to Ellis Island, and some schools were going, to Grover Park. And we wanted to get a sense of what all the field trips were. So like Justin, I think at one meeting was like, Chevy's, that's not even in business anymore. And so,
right, and
why is that on there?
An updated accurate list as well as an equitable.
Right. So then after that, we went through, Annie and Betsy and the staff have gone through the list of field trips to make sure it accurately represents what we're doing. So as far as I know, we haven't added anything at this, I mean, except for the new overnight trips, but as far as the day trips, nothing's been added. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And there are some schools who may take a day trip for the first time. One thing that we spoke about with Carol and then Annie is that, and I believe we talked about this a few months ago at a board meeting, is that there'll be a common field trip at the elementary level for each grade level. If not all happening this year, certainly moving forward, so that we know there's an equity of experience as well as an equity, some financial equity.
And also that it goes with the curriculum. Like, so for example, and also what we as board members want all our children to experience, and like for one example is, I think Johnson Park goes to Ellis Island. And I think that would be a wonderful thing in fourth grade. And I think that would be a wonderful thing for every fourth grader to do. And so similar experiences, fifth grade, they all go to Gettysburg. And so we just want to make sure that every student is getting a similar experience. It's not going to be equal, but it'll be similar. And so to that end, I wanted to ask you, Fern, about the African American Museum trip. Is that the one that you got 40 tickets? No. The school got 40 tickets.
40 tickets. I have 53.
You have 53.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know how those kids will be selected, or if they've been selected?
Well, yeah, that's Miss Baxter and Lenore Keel are working on that with me, and I will be talking with Jason also because their DC trip is around the same time we're doing our DC trip. So we're trying to make sure that we can get as many kids involved as possible. So it's a group of us that are trying to pick the kids. The kids are signing up.
Right.
And that's another thing. When they sign up, they have to participate because we have such a resourceful town that our children can pick and choose wherever they want to go.
Right.
They can sign up to say they're going, but then find out something else is going on somewhere else and blow that off. So we're trying to teach our kids to follow through.
Well, let us know if there's any openings. We'll come. Betsy and I
Sure,
will come.
sure.
Because there's a
Okay.
waiting list, right, to get in there?
For
Yeah.
large groups,
Yeah.
not for small. For large groups, there's a waiting list.
Yeah, that's great.
I also will add, Evelyn, as far as, you know, the board does this every year where they sort of approve this full list. And so now it's updated, but it also has the curriculum link, which it never was listed before. So we trusted our educators for sure to be taking students on trips that had a curricular link. But now that we've actually asked for it, and it's been a lot of work for Annie to collect it all, but I think it's really helpful for us to see that. I think going forward, the board is also always thinking about the financial impact. And some schools, you know, certainly our PTOs are very generous with field trips and residencies, and they're in our principals' budgets as well. And I think going forward, that's something we'll continue to explore. But this is a great first, second,
just
and
the
third
equity
step.
of it, and just making sure if it's an experience worthwhile, then why, you know, we want to make sure that we're giving all of our students the opportunities, and if not, why not? And just asking the questions. No, I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're spending a lot of time on trips, but just one other equity question. With respect to the 8th grade trip, I know in years past, we created a little fund to help the PTOs so they don't have to bear all the brunt of that. How is that? Is that now funded to the extent that every child who wants to go on that trip goes, or how are we doing that?
Yeah, we still have money in an equity fund to support that, and we still work with the PTO to make sure that that happens. But yes, we ensure that every child can go on that trip.
Any
Can I
other
just
M
say
questions before?
real quick? I don't have 53 tickets. Committed and Faithful Princetonians has 53 tickets with Corner House and Community House. We collaborated to go together. Okay.
Good. Okay, any other M or N questions?
I have one on N.
Okay.
N3. So we approve books in student achievement, and we have people come in, and they do a lot of, background, and we approve them as low as $300 for a whole set of books. So I'm just curious about other curriculum. How come something like this doesn't come to us? This is, I'm sorry, N3?
This is the intervention materials from Heinemann. Annie, is this level literacy intervention? I'm trying to think of what this. Oh, it's paid through the IDEA grant. Yeah.
Yeah, it's special services.
So is it paid 100% by the grant?
Funding will be paid through the, yes.
So then I guess I'm confused why we even approve it. I mean,
student achievement.
we don't have control over the grant,
The life
or
of
do we,
Pi?
the board?
Yeah, you have to approve all funding, yeah.
We do. The grant is a federal fund that we have to manage the finances of it.
Okay, okay.
But that is a good question. It's a good question Debbie's raising, that certain curricular materials come through to be approved and some don't. So it's,
I think it may be, these are not, I don't think these are new materials. I think these are, what I'm imagining this is level of literacy intervention materials that they're expensive kits that we've had like one or two at each school, and there's a value in having them, having each teacher who's working with AIS students have their own kit and have a variety of levels of those kits. So I don't think it's you would approve new materials, but if we're just expanding on materials that we've already approved, then that's what this is. And sometimes they're expensive.
Okay. Any other questions on N? If not, on item O, I will ask for questions, but I just also point out that on O5, we are going to table that. So how do we do that procedurally? Are we going to? Already tabled. Okay, so O5 is not to be passed during our consent agenda. Got it. Okay. Any other questions on items? Any questions on item O? And is 08 an action item? Yes. Okay.
Can I ask Lou a question? Have you gone to Hampton University before, or is that a new school?
Yeah, it's my first trip. I'll be going there tomorrow. Yeah, leaving tomorrow.
Yes.
That's wonderful. And that's part of your efforts to recruit.
HBCU, Historically Black College University.
Right. And I'll be going to Lincoln University in Philadelphia on November 9th.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So this is, another thing that the board has asked and the administrators are doing is we don't just want, we want to get the very best teachers. And so one of the things that the administration is doing is going to historically black colleges and universities, and we're just like thrilled. So that's great. Thank
I'm
you.
excited. I'm looking forward to it.
It's great to see. And you get a little trip. I hope you have nice weather.
Yeah, stay out of hurricanes. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
That is true.
What is 08? The board members' travel-related expenses, Atlantic City?
You missed the memo?
There's a good reason, that's right.
I've been jealous of that trip. I think Gary was here.
Yeah. Actually, that is something open to all board members. It's the NJSBA. Our district's a member of that. There is a cost to go to the conference. And when I was looking up, I was surprised, actually. I emailed with Stephanie at the cost. If we added one more person, we could actually send 14 people for $1,500. So I'm saying if anyone else wants to go, there are 4 of us who will be going for part of the conference. That's $300 each. If we add one more board member that we pay for, we actually can send 14 educators for $1,500. So I'm just putting it out there if anyone's considering even a day. But yeah, that's what that is. We
need a quorum.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to be in separate rooms.
No, we need a quorum for the board meeting.
Oh, but right. There's a board meeting that Tuesday, so, right.
So you have to be here.
That we need a first and a second on that one.
Okay, so for 08, we need a motion.
So we can vote on our own travel?
Yes, because you're voting on your
Peers?
colleagues too.
Okay, have a motion?
Oh, wait, we
Justin?
need-
Second.
Justin,
Fern?
We'll send you pictures.
Is it too late for others to join? I mean, not for this board agenda, but I guess it is, right?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next year.
I'm gonna plan it for next year, yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity, and it's it really makes sense to send as many people as possible. The selection is fantastic, so absolutely.
Okay, we have motion second,
So this is just on the travel one?
just on 8.
Just on
08.
board travel.
And we vote even if we're on the list.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because you're voting for your.
Okay.
Friends.
I'm voting for you, you're voting for me, but you're not voting for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not like it's, a big expense, so. Not like you're going to some fancy European
Right.
spa or.
But we're going to learn
Yeah, we're not
lots
the
of-
jazz band, we're just the
Yeah.
board.
And we're going to learn lots of things to ask questions about.
Oh, good.
Yes, yeah.
I look forward to that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so,
So
Wait,
I still have a question on O.
We still have a vote hanging out.
oh,
Not me.
Evelyn,
Is it me?
can you not get,
I can't.
can't see it?
I will refresh and see if I can get it.
And obviously, this is you're voting on the upper end of the travel. So anything not spent.
Correct.
So that's what we always do with travel
Right,
expenses.
we always
Okay.
put it up higher. Try to. No? What's your vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Evelyn. You're welcome. We'll send you a picture too. Enjoy.
okay. Now, Debbie, any or questions on O?
Yeah, I had a question on 2 and 3, kind of just to understand a little more with the buses. Are these renewals, this is similar money we've been paying? And the one for the also for the athletics, is it new that we're using A1?
Yes. Well, go ahead.
No. These were for 2, let's go back to 2. That, it's just a revision. This was already board approved, but there was a change in the calculation. It's not much, it's only a few dollars, but it was, if it's higher than what was board approved, we have to reapprove it. It was only within a couple, I think maybe $100 between the two.
Okay.
And your next one was on
The athletic, number 3.
athletic. That situation is there's a large issue throughout the state on transportation not having we're getting regularly comments from, requests from other districts requesting to see if there's anybody out there that could do busing for different districts from all over the place. Busing is just an issue in New Jersey, lack of drivers, really, and mostly due to, they changed the CDL.
Requirements, right, for getting a
Requirements.
license, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a huge scarcity of drivers. I was talking to a superintendent today who may have to cancel 14 athletic trips. So we actually are very lucky that our transportation coordinator found a novel way of helping us with that, and so A1 is one of those contractors along with Conover that's.
Along with the routes that she's picking up as much as possible.
Exactly,
Our own
with our own drivers, yeah.
And I could also tell you that she has drivers showing up in her office weekly asking to work here for her. Pulling them from-
amazing.
Well, I shouldn't probably say that out loud, but I'm not saying from where, they're just showing up.
Thank you.
Okay, that leads us, unless there's any other comments, to item P, which is our consent vote, which is on all the consent items on the agenda. And that is, again, going to be an electronic vote, Stephanie? Yeah, we need a, okay.
We need a first and a second.
Greg, and a second, Vern.
Okay, you should also be able to see the vote now. Evelyn, can you see it?
I see motion and voting. I see, but it's just not popping up. I mean, I'm there, everything's there, but it's not there. Sorry. Don't look at me, no, stay.
Go, Gabe, go. Gotta fix it for next time.
Evelyn, did you go to training?
Evidently. See, this is because I pointed back there. This is the.
This one, all the consent
consent
votes.
All right.
Thank you, Gabe.
Okay, so one last item. I think we changed item Q. It used to be called old business, new business. And since we never had any, we decided to have to rename it closing comments. And Greg, just wanted to turn it over to Greg for some closing comments about some of the issues that he's been working on. So.
Yeah, thanks. So this is just a follow-up to the discussion about the New Jersey School Boards Association that we're all members of, and just to see if we can be able to sort of leverage some of the great resources that are available to all of us. So I'm honored to serve as the Mercer County representative on their board. And I wanted to flag for everybody a couple of things that are coming up. One is the workshop, and thank you all for the vote. So I'm really pleased to see that 4 board members will be going to the workshop this year. And it'd be great to try to even increase that number in the future years. A second thing is, as part of our membership, we're also a sub-member of the Mercer County School Board Association. And I will be sending out to board members and to Stephanie and Steve notices of upcoming meetings, but there's a meeting on Thursday evening. It's a special meeting looking at what's going on the legislative side at the state level. So many of the things that happen at the state level impact us. And so this is a discussion with members of representatives from districts 14, 15, and 16, including our own Andrea Spalla, who's now Chief of Staff to Assemblyman Zucker. She'll be there. And it's a chance for all of us to discuss what's going on at the state level and what may go on after the next election. So I encourage anyone, it's for free. It's a dinner included. It's at 6 o'clock at Cherry Valley. It's in Skillman, Cherry Valley Country Club. So I'll have more information if anyone wants to go. Following up on that as well, just to flag in April, there's a new thing that the NJSBA is holding. It's a 3-day leadership conference. And this is targeted for presidents, vice presidents, and anyone on boards who'd like to become one in the future. And first time they're doing this. I think it's also a really wonderful opportunity for those of us who took advantage of the training for first years. It was really fantastic. This will be a 3-day training, just really going into that. So I just wanted to flag that, and it's April 20th through 22nd. Finally, really quickly, just from the last board meeting we had last week, there was a real focus again on what's happening on the state level and with politics. And there's a position paper that was put out on current issues in public education in New Jersey that the NJSBA sent to both, actually all gubernatorial candidates. If anyone wants a copy, be free to forward that to you. Focused on school funding and the underfunding by the state, school facilities, and as well the underfunding by the state and what can be done about that going forward in the future. Special education, issues about how, in order to try to increase equity on that front, we need better funding from both the federal and state levels, and proposals that the NJSBA has. And also a really good discussion about charter schools. And charter schools are associate members of the NJSBA, so the NJSBA has policies there that they're pushing. For example, that if in any situation of an expansion, the district would be notified by January 1st of any changes in the numbers to allow districts like ours to plan better and to have a 5-year impact statement. So some really, really good material, and I wanted to flag that, and I really appreciate the chance to talk about this. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Greg. This is great stuff. Okay, so finally we're on to item R, which is our last.
Can I just ask one
Oh,
question?
sure, go ahead.
Given that we have some members of the board who will be going to the school board's convention, I just wanted to ask who thinks they will be here for the October 24th meeting to ensure that we do have a quorum.
So the Sustainable Jersey will be presenting Princeton Public Schools with an award on Tuesday. So someone from Princeton Public Schools has to accept. It would be nice if someone accepted that. So to that end, if I'm there, I will accept it, and I will try to get back for the meeting. I'm not sure what time it is.
Okay. Sounds like we'll have a quorum, though. Yeah, looks like it. Thank you.
Good, thanks. So before we adjourn, are there any comments from the public? This is an open topics, any topic at all. Welcome to come up to the podium now.
Bob Corral, I teach at the high school. This is just quick for the kids. So I just want you to know that the idea of that mini break in the morning did not come from the Bell Committee. That was brought to the Bell Committee by students last year. Okay? And we've heard the comment about the longer lunch. We've talked about it. But I noticed when you compare us to West Windsor and to Lawrence, you compare our lunch times, but you don't compare our start times. So are you willing to go to their earlier start time to get a longer lunch? I doubt it. Okay?
So there's no free lunch?
No.
Rod Montgomery from William Patterson Court, curmudgeon taxpayer. I'll spare you half of the diatribe I had prepared. As always, I'm speaking in what the positive psychology people term the active destructive mode, and I'm speaking from a position of hopeful pessimism. Some of the things that I heard this evening put a dent in my pessimism, but it popped back. In particular, the persistent failure to get searchable PDFs into the agenda website. Just. I don't know. I didn't bother to notice, to note it down. I just said, expletive deleted. I'd like to thank Ms. Kendall, Ms. Braunfeld, and Ms. Spahn for responding to my email about failure. I had intended to speak more extensively about that, but maybe sometime in the future. Quick question. The trailers are there, right?
Yes.
Who's in them? Administrators or teachers?
Yeah. Wait.
No
one right now.
No one right now, Monday.
Teachers will be.
Yeah.
Teachers will be. Thank you. More, please, sir, I want more of the, what are they called? Alternative Professional Projects, APP. I don't know. Can you get some kind of waiver to have more? Can you take some political action in all these school board associations you're affiliated with to get more? Hope so.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. I'll talk privately. I'd like to spend the rest of whatever time I have to flog the EduSeer horse another stroke or 5. EduSeer, as you recall, is an online facility for taking online courses for high school credit, among other things. I understand from Ms. Kendall and Ms. Baglio that you are considering the issue I raised about financial equity of access to that. I'd like to speak tonight about a different matter. I thank you for that. Are you teaching students that online courses are only good for satisfying silly requirements like financial literacy, learning trivial things like financial literacy, and making up credits, maybe without learning much, when normal high-quality teaching is disrupted by health problems? I understand that those are the things for which you are allowing, the administration is taking advantage of the endorsement provided by the board for the use of this EduSeer facility. Suppose a student gets out of Princeton High School and needs to learn something new. Has she learned from her experience in PHS that the only way to learn it is from a high-quality in-person teacher? Is she learning that online courses, except for those few purposes, are useless, worthless, not to be trusted, not to be attempted? Is there, on the contrary, an important 21st century skill, which I'm sure is not on the approved list of 21st century skills, the skill being distinguishing bad online learning opportunities from good ones? Can you help your students learn that skill? And should you? Specifically, I understand from Ms. Wang's comments, I hope I did not misunderstand them or mishear them, that there is a deficit in capacity for Python programming instruction. Did I hear that correctly? Okay. So, as it stands, the alternatives available for learning Python programming under PHS auspices, or perhaps for satisfying prerequisites for higher level computer science studies at PHS, are either the teacher-taught courses at PHS or nothing. There's no alternative way of learning Python programming that would be acceptable to PHS. Really? There's no online course that's better than nothing? Is there an opportunity for an APP project that compared online Python learning with face-to-face teacher learning or teacher-instructed learning? Is there an opportunity for a summer Python institute of some sort? Diatribe concluded. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your
Mr.
work
Montgomery.
on behalf of Princeton students.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Any other questions or comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, then if we could have a motion to adjourn. Fern, and second, Greg. And do we need an electronic vote on this? No, I can. You can do it. Okay. All in favor? Okay, then we're adjourned.